To the Suicide Monk, and I am your host, and my name is Britton. Little updates on some things. First, we get a season opener with DC Copeland. She is an author, playwright, calls herself a dramatist, sorry, also a playwright, and a disruptor of society. She's got a great book out. She's got a couple books out, and one of those is called Societal Dropout. Beautiful conversation to start off the season with her. We got some other things coming up that we're involved in, and a lot of great interviews for the next several months of people taking their pain and turning it into healing. A lot of great authors, people from around the world, the UK, China, Israel, and of course the United States. So, and just things have been evolving with the podcast and making connections, also evolving with myself. So I started doing some schooling again so I can start doing coaching with some credibility, I guess. It's not that I don't have the knowledge, it's that I don't have the piece of paper. So I'm going to start doing that and really learning how to structure that and guide people and lead people, and walk with people effectively, and then teach people how to do that as well. That's also on my plate, coming up with programs and um, systems to help people navigate very difficult situations when they're in this mindset of suicide ideology. And then I'm going to do some, I think, some training classes for people, parents, families, to friends, to be able to walk with people who are suicidal and to understand some of those dynamics and what they can do, and really what they, cause some of the things they shouldn't do. I've heard some, even recently, I've heard some pretty funky things, that people should not say that can push somebody over the edge pretty quickly, because of their own insecurities and fears and things like that, instead of understanding the nature of this topic and not just being cautious with it, but being mindful with it. So you can be effective for the people in your life. And that's how we're going to change the mass amount of people that have suicide ideology and mental health issues right now. And I kind of talk about that this season of mental health and what that looks like to me, what I feel like that is. And then as I have conversations with people, they unfold a little bit of that also. I'm going to be speaking with a gentleman who was paralyzed from the neck down. He had broken his neck and healed himself through breathing exercises. We'll go more into depth into that. Um, Again, some really incredible authors, podcasters, radio host who him and his mentor are both on the show, and they're both addiction experts, and have some horrific stories. I mean, one of the gentlemen that I spoke to tied himself to the train tracks and lived to tell. So we get some really interesting, exciting, and wonderful stories coming on the podcast, and most of these are tragedy to purpose, and that's what I'm really focusing on right now. We do have some military things, which I was hoping to do more military this year and get more involved in that, but that'll be a slow process, as is my growth. So we do have some military stuff coming, which is battle buddies, battleborn buddies, I believe is what it is. And that's Shannon Walker, where she started this several years ago and now donates canines, trains canines for PTSD and military veterans, and then donates those dogs. And it's all done through donation in her company and stuff like that. So unbelievable things. And then we have the Ollie Foundation out of the UK, which will be highlighting and putting at the forefront of March to try to gain some support for that because they deal with youth, family, and a multitude of others, but really teaching um, people how to deal and walk and recognize suicide ideology at a younger age, not necessarily teaching suicide prevention at a younger age, but teaching navigation skills so those skills are utilized and not um, and that doesn't turn into a suicide ideology. And that's what we find a lot of times is especially for me, I'll speak for me. I didn't grow up with the skills to navigate really hard situations. I had to learn this stuff on my own, and I'm still learning on my own. It's not that I didn't learn a valuable skill; it's that I could have been. It would have been a lot nicer not to have to suffer for 44 years and have some school skills and tools to navigate my way out of some of the darkness that I lived with. So that's what the Ollie Foundation, in a nutshell, does. So we're going to be pushing to get some support for both of these this season, and Battleborn Buddies, and I think it's Battleborn. I'll have to double check. I should have done that prior to, but I wasn't expecting to tell you about it. So spontaneity, and that's the way it goes. That's the way this podcast is. But those are the things that are coming up. I'm learning Spanish on my own right now, which has been a really fun thing for me. I also, um, again, going back to school to become a wellness coach, and then I'll expand into that, or as the time allows, to gain more knowledge in some of these fields of practice of coaching and stuff like that. I was going to go back to school for a degree, but I have a little more freedom in this area to walk with people and not make it such a client um, relationship, a client, whatever they call that, professional relationship. I can have, even though a lot of things, a lot of coaching things that automatically tell you don't get involved. I don't agree. I'm going to do it my way. And that's by loving people the best I can for as long as I can, and trying to walk them out of that darkness, with at least have somebody beside them as they're walking through that darkness. So it gives me less clients. But it gives me more opportunity to help somebody on a personal level. So I'm looking forward to that. And as these things develop, I'll keep you informed. And then I'm also, again, learning Spanish, which has been really fun for me, learning on my own. And then also I have I have a very, very significant, I shouldn't say pretty, I should not downsize this, um, or downplay it, a very significant journey coming up in the next couple months that I will be sharing with all of you at some point. I just haven't figured out the details on that and what that looks like. Or, I listened to some of my stuff today that I was going to share, and it just wasn't very good. It's funny when I think I'm being profound and just talking, how much of a ding dong I can be. So I'm trying to be conscious of my language and how I present things, so as not to mislead or um, make you believe something that might not be true. So trying to keep it as raw as possible, but I just check in my language because I know somebody had told me that I'm all or nothing, and I kind of recognize that when I speak sometimes. Um, I think they said I speak with certainty, and even though my mind is not on the certain stage, apparently my words are, and I recognize that today. So that's why some of this content, I just need to change my verbiage on how I present that, because it seems very black and white. I'm like, why is that black and white? I was stepping back and listening to my own story. So anyway, I'm going to be sharing that journey with all of you as I go along. And it's really to go and put to rest the things that have haunted me for my life. So I'm coming to a head per se in the journey that I've been on for the last few years, the last 40 some years. Um, and this is kind of the beautiful part because this is where the epiphanies happen and ideas happen and creativity happens, and the next step is putting those things to rest and practicing a lifestyle that is beneficial to my life and creates life for me. So, and then in turn, and I think this is the natural evolution, is that I get to give that back in ways that are tangible for those of you that listen. So, um, I mean, there's so much good that I'm seeing out of this, and none of it seems to be, um, none of it seems to be like a bad thing. So that's that's kind of where I'm at. I'm in the midst of training right now. Britain's never trained for anything in his life. Um, but I'm in the midst of training and I'm absolutely loving it. And it's a joy to have some of these things that I struggle with and to take them out and train with them and try to learn how to manage them, like my diabetes. It's always giving me trouble, but as I'm training, it's going to be very, very different because I'm physically active and my body will react to how much intake I have in food intake and then breaking down those sugars, with exercise and insulin. So I have a big challenge ahead of me because it's, they would tell you that my pancreas is dead and because I'm type 1 diabetes and it doesn't work. But this thing, I think it has a misfire, and it works sometimes and works not sometimes, most of the time. But sometimes it does, especially with physical activity. So I have to be really careful because if I get caught out where I'm going, well, it'll be fatal. If it could very high chance it'd be fatal if I broke my insulin bottle, if it got too hot and it didn't work, if anything, I mean anything can go wrong. It's if I drop it and break the bottle, I mean there's so many stupid things that go wrong with being diabetic. So just prepping for that. It's interesting trying to regulate my food, um, pausing my mind because my mind is still very young and thinks I can push my body beyond limits and still be okay the next day. And so I have to listen to myself really well. I have to listen to my body tell me what's going on, my knees, my feet, my gut, my diabetes, any pains. I have to be very conscious. And then that's the other thing. If something happens and I'm out where I'm going, and say I sprain my ankle or cut my foot or cut my hands, and I can't get medical attention or whatever I'm doing is not working, there's high risk for me, um, more so than when I was in my youth, especially because I wasn't diabetic. Um, but now I have a big challenges ahead of me because of all my surgeries that I've had, being blind and where I'm going. I mean, there's so many things, but it's exciting. I'm enjoying this. I love it. I I have been walking and hiking for training with a backpack on and weight, and I can't tell you how wonderful I feel. To be able to get out and just walk and have a purpose to walk towards and train for. I never really saw that happening. I always wanted to do things, but I was never motivated to do anything. Hmm. Meh, meh, meh. So being in the mountains, hiking amongst the pines and walking next to the river is, um, well, it's a lifelong dream that I enjoy doing every time I get to do it. So, yeah, so those are things coming up, and hopefully you stuck with me this long. If not, well, I didn't want to talk to you anyway. So, we'll see you on the good side. Thanks for joining me on the Suicide Monk. Peace.